Got a great edition of Just the Truth for you today. Glad you're joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose the weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Former President Donald Trump says he's ready to face off with Joe Biden on the debate stage. Did you watch the town hall last night with Laura Ingraham on Fox News? It was taped earlier yesterday in front of an enthusiastic crowd at the Greenville Convention Center. We've got some of the highlights for you. And Nikki Haley, just hours before the Trump Townhall, held her own news conference to make it clear she's in the race for the duration. We've got that info for you as well. A Catholic couple in Indiana is asking the Supreme Court to hold the state accountable for keeping their child out of their home. Now listen to this. After they declined to use his chosen name and pronouns. A 33-year-old amateur ballerina with dual U.S.-Russian citizenship has been detained in Russia and is facing life in prison for allegedly donating $51 to Ukraine's war effort. And House Speaker Mike Johnson has announced the formation of a bipartisan task force aimed at exploring how the U.S. can maintain its competitiveness in the field of artificial intelligence. A lot of conversation about AI these days. We'll dive into how they're going to address the potential risk associated with this rapidly evolving technology. And Remington, the oldest gun manufacturer in the United States, is preparing to close its factory in New York after more than 2 centuries of operation. They're not closing, though. They're just closing in New York. Where are they going to go? They're heading south.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
On our guest line this morning, Senator Tim Scott.
Thank you for listening to one of the best radio shows. Joey, God bless your leadership.
Joey, congratulations on your new show.
I just wanted to let you know that I always appreciate your perspective and your common sense approach to the issues.
You know what? If people like you keep telling us the truth, believe me, we're paying close attention.
Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Donald Trump says he's ready to face off with Joe Biden on the debate stage. Trump, of course, the commanding front runner in the 2024 Republican race, yesterday in Greenville, South Carolina, my hometown here, calling for Biden to debate him this year as the two move closer to a potential rematch of their 2020 presidential election face-off. Asked by Laura Ingraham, who was hosting this Fox News town hall, if he'll challenge the president to a debate, Ingraham spoke of how Nikki Haley tries to put Trump in the same category of Joe Biden. He quickly challenged Biden to the debate.
Back to Biden and his current state, whatever you want to call it. Will you challenge him to regular debates, regardless of the concern about the moderators? I know that's always annoying, but I'll be happy to moderate one, by the way. Would you challenge him? Come on, Joe, you can do it. Will you challenge him to a debate regularly on focused specific topics? In other words, so it's not a wide-ranging, just one debate on foreign policy.
Well, I'll do it right now on your show. I'll challenge him right now, and we can do you can do anybody you want. I'll take anybody from CNN, which is doing very poorly in the ratings, by the way, as you probably know. I'll take anybody, because I think you have an obligation in this case. You really have an obligation to debate. When it came to the Republicans, I was up by 40, 50, 60 points, like being up on her. I think a poll just came out. I'm at 91 and she's at 7. And would you debate? You want to be smart. You don't have to waste your time doing certain
But that would be
debates.
instructive to see you versus Biden on any given topic.
Regardless of poll numbers. I'm way up on him now in the polls. And frankly, I think we have an obligation. When you have the final Republican, the final Democrat, you have the two people you have to debate regardless of polls.
How many debates would you commit to?
As many as necessary. I would like to do it starting now. I don't think he's going to debate, though. I really don't think so. I mean, we had a debate where at the end of the debate, he admitted I was right about almost everything, but in particular on energy. Do you remember? I said, I feel like Perry Mason, the way you just collapsed. And he admitted everything about energy, and that's what actually happened, and that's why your energy costs went up 3 and 4 times. I mean, we had $1.87, and he was up to $5, $6, $7, and that's going to happen immediately after the election. Let's not even talk about if he wins. We can't allow it to win. We're not going to have a country left.
Donald Trump with Laura Ingraham in front of a live audience of several hundred people. I had a hard time really telling how many people were actually there. It had been reported initially when this was going to be in the Spartanburg Auditorium that they were going to have 1,600 to 1,900 people. Then, of course, it was moved to Greenville after they ran into some issues, the fact that it was across the street from a polling place. Had to move it to Greenville, but I couldn't really tell how many people were there. We were told that the people who had registered in Spartanburg would be able to just come to Greenville. So I don't know if it was still the 1,600 or so. It didn't look like there were that many people there. Again, this was controlled by Fox News and not the Trump campaign. Trump, of course, is moving closer to locking up the GOP presidential nomination as he runs for the third straight time for the White House. South Carolina, he's expected to win easily. He's expected to do very well on Super Tuesday as well. Trump sat down, of course, for this town hall after his campaign just a few hours earlier in a memo, argued that Nikki Haley's White House bid would end fittingly in her home state because he is a couple of recent polls have shown he has a commanding lead. A poll was released just yesterday showing it was 65 to 35. But Haley, just a couple of hours before, held her own news conference in Greenville, saying she's in the race. She's not going anywhere. She intends to finish.
Some of you, perhaps a few of you in the media, came here today to see if I'm dropping out of the race. Well, I'm not. Far from it, and I'm here to tell you why. I'm running for president because we have a country to save. Since the start of my campaign, I've been focused on the real issues our country faces, the ones that determine whether America will thrive or spiral out. That's why I refuse to quit. South Carolina will vote on Saturday, but on Sunday, I'll still be running for president. I'm not going anywhere. Dropping out would be the easy route. I've never taken the easy route. I've been the underdog in every race I've ever run. I've always been David, taking on Goliath. And like David, I'm not just fighting someone bigger than me. I'm fighting for something bigger than myself. People have a right to have their voices heard. And they deserve a real choice, not a Soviet-style election where there's only one candidate and he gets 99% of the vote. We don't anoint kings in this country. We have elections. And Donald Trump, of all people, should know we don't rig elections.
Nikki Haley, again, and a news conference just a couple of hours. This was arranged very quickly as a lot of the media was speculating that she was calling this to drop out of the race. I never thought that, quite honestly. My buddy Mike Gallagher, when we started getting the news alerts about this, that Haley had scheduled this news conference, I was on the Mike Gallagher show. And by the way, you can listen at mikeonline.com or just go to the Salem News Channel, download the Salem News Channel app, and you can still hear Mike Gallagher if you're listening in the upstate of South Carolina, western North Carolina. If you're listening in other areas, you may be able to hear him on a local radio station. But I was on with Mike speculating, and I never thought for 1 minute that Nikki Haley was calling this news conference to drop out. I suspected and I predicted that she was doing it to try to at least be in the news, be in the news cycle, because everybody was focusing on this town hall meeting that Trump was going to be having with Laura Ingraham. Asked about Ms. Haley's comments, Trump said during the town hall that you're not supposed to lose your home state, he said. It shouldn't happen anyway, and she's losing it bigly. I'm not sure bigly is a word. And in fact, in Trump fashion, he called himself and he said big, but then he kind of laughed and he said, well, I said bigly. Is bigly a word? Maybe some of you English teachers out there can help me with that one. Just text me on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Bigly. He said, I didn't know that. Well, first off, let me back up. Ingraham said, why do you think she is continuing in the race? Trump said, I don't think she knows how to get out. She just can't get herself out. He also reiterated that he's ruled her out as a running mate. When asked the question, he said, yeah, that decision was made about 3 months ago, basically saying it was never in consideration. On other topics, Trump was asked if President Biden should have been charged in his classified document case. Here's his response.
I don't know if you know this, but he's set to testify on Capitol Hill on March 12th. What is one question you're hoping the Republicans or someone who has some honesty up there will ask Mr. Hur? And should Biden have been charged in the classified documents case?
Well, nobody else has been over the years because, Hillary took a lot and Bill took a lot. Bill took him out in his socks. They call it the socks case, which he won with a very tough judge, which he won. Bush took him. Everybody, Reagan took him out. Everybody took him out. It only became a big subject when I took things out. The difference is I had what's called the Presidential Records Act. I was allowed to do what I did. Absolutely allowed. That's why they passed the act in 1978. They passed the Presidential Records Act. But you can only use it or be there if you're president. Biden wasn't president. He was vice president.
Why didn't you just hand him over when they were requested, though? I mean, they requested him. You could have just handed him over. Probably saved yourself a lot of trouble.
First of all, I didn't have to hand him over. But second of all, I would have done that. We were talking, and then all of a sudden they raided Mar-a-Lago. Do you remember? They said, could you put an extra lock on the door? We showed them where they were. We showed them. Unlike being under a Corvette in a little garage with the door open all the time, we had these things locked. We were surrounded all the time by many Secret Service agents. We had Secret Service all over Mar-a-Lago. You couldn't take anything out. But what happened, and when you take a look, Biden didn't have the Presidential Records Act. He's at great jeopardy, really. But they said, look, he's incompetent to go to court, but he can be president. Figure that one. In other words, he can't represent himself at court because he's incompetent.
What should Hur be asked? What should he be asked?
Well, I just think you have to ask, why did you do it? You didn't have the Presidential Records Act, and how did you do it as senator? Dick Durbin, a senator, said there's no way he did that as senator.
Also, in responding to a question from the audience, which they did allow a few questions, Mr. Trump was asked about concerns that a second term would be focused on what some have called settling old scores. Here's his response to the question.
Mr. President, our country is so divided right now. I know you have suffered endless attacks, no doubt, but how can you assure independent and undecided voters that your focus as president will be on improving the state of our country and not settling those old scores?
It's an interesting question, I must say. Look, I did it before. We had a great 4 years, especially before that very last part where COVID came in, and we did a great job there. We've been given great marks on the economy and on the military and on foreign affairs, but never got the credit we should have gotten in that. We did something amazing, and the stock market was higher in the end. But just before I call it the China virus because I like to be accurate, came onto our shores, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world, even going up to the end. But this period of time, and it was success. Successful is the word I'm using to answer your question. We had such success in history. Some of your favorite pollsters like McLaughlin and Fabrizio, I met them the day before I heard the word COVID or pandemic, the day before. And we were talking about the next election coming up. They said, sir, if Abraham Lincoln and George Washington came back from the dead, they couldn't beat you. We had the greatest economy ever. And the people, let's call them on the left and far left, were calling me. We want to get together. I've never seen anything like it. I said, do you believe this? Everybody was happy. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American.
We're going to get into that because of your polls on that.
When you look at the poll numbers today with African American, Hispanic American, we're doing better than any.
But the question about score settling, a lot of women, a lot of women voters, they don't like the name calling, they don't like the score settling. They love your policies, and they just want Trump's policies, maybe not so much of the other stuff. So I think that's what the question, if you don't mind my asking, I think that's what she's getting at.
But also you want to say, how do you get together? We're going to get together through success. When the country was at a level that we had the best employment numbers in history, everything was good. And this country was coming together. Then we got hit with COVID, but this country came together. I don't care about the revenge thing. I know they usually use the word revenge. Will there be revenge? My revenge will be success.
What a great answer. What do you think about President Trump's performance? Love to get your feedback. 864-477-5639. 864-477-JOEY. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line. Leave a quick voice message. I'd love to hear what you think about Donald Trump's performance on this town hall. Emails as well, joey@joeyhudson.com. House Speaker Mike Johnson has announced the formation of a bipartisan task force aimed at exploring how the U.S. can maintain its competitiveness in the field of artificial intelligence. AI seems to be just taking over. Literally, it's quite amazing. And I've been experimenting a bit with various AI applications and what you can use it for. I really wasn't that in tune with what AI is until recently. It's quite amazing. I'll expand on what Speaker Johnson wants to do in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about your weight. I know it's kind of personal, but if you've got that visceral fat around your waist and your doctor's been advising you to lose some to get healthy again, I know who can help you. Because over 3 years ago, boy, am I glad I met Dr. Ashley Lucas with PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, because it has changed my life. It'll change yours as well. I lost 30 pounds. I've been able to maintain it for over 3 years now. Call today, 864-252-4925. Set up your initial consultation. Go in, sit down with a nutritionist, a coach at PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. They have offices in Greenville, Asheville, Charlotte, Lake Norman. And if you're listening to me someplace else, they can do it virtually as well. And there've been a lot of success stories of people all around the country who've heard me talking about PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition who've been able to take advantage of it. 864-252-4925. Sorry, 864-252-4925, or online at myphdweightloss.com. Do it today, and just in a matter of weeks, months, you too can be talking about losing 10, 20, 30 pounds or more. PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition, the official partner of the Clemson Tigers. Speaker Johnson emphasized the importance of understanding and planning for both the promises and the complexities of AI, stating that advancements in this area could significantly impact our economy and our society. And he's right. There's so many reports. I read a report yesterday that AI potentially, and in some cases, could literally run a radio station. We wouldn't have to have anybody but just a couple of tech people who would keep the computers up and rebooted from time to time. AI can write scripts for you. AI can voice them in various voices. AI can even produce a video. It's quite amazing. This initiative, which has been a result of discussions between Speaker Johnson and House Democrat leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York will be comprised of House lawmakers who have some expertise in AI who represent relevant committees. Jeffries highlighted the need for implementing safeguards to protect Americans while harnessing the potential benefits of AI. The co-chairs of the task force are Representative Jay Obernolte, a Republican from California and chairman of the Oversight Committee of the House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology, and Representative Ted Lieu, a Democrat from California who serves on the House Judiciary Committee's Internet Subcommittee. Both co-chairs are also members of the House AI Caucus. Despite the growing interest in AI within Congress, there appears to be little movement or consensus on what legislative action, if any, is needed. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer announced an AI framework recently, but there's no progress been made on that. Several bills addressing AI-related issues have been introduced, including deep fakes and intellectual property rights, but none have advanced to a vote in the House. Now, when you get to the intellectual property rights, AI can actually clone someone's voice. For example, someone could be listening to this podcast. They could take a sample of my voice, and AI could reproduce it. I mean, there's apps that I could actually use that would record this podcast. Now, because it is artificial intelligence, it doesn't have common sense. It doesn't have necessarily reasoning. So there are little things that can happen, but still, it's pretty amazing what AI can do. Speaker Johnson said that he's been engaging with AI experts to understand the complexities of the technology. It has the potential of literally taking people's jobs already, particularly in media and publishing. You can type in a few words and it will write paragraphs for you. Overall, the formation of the task force signals this bipartisan effort to address the challenges and the opportunities, because there are opportunities there. But boy, do we have to be careful. But at the same time, we have to recognize China and other countries are already way ahead of us. A Catholic couple in Indiana is asking the Supreme Court to hold the state accountable for keeping their child out of their home after they declined to use his chosen name and pronouns. Now, this is scary, folks. If you're a parent, a grandparent, anybody, actually, it's scary that this could be happening. I'm going to give you the details here in just a moment. First, let me talk with you about Furman Ford. Do you need a new vehicle? Do you need a great pre-owned vehicle that you can trust, that you know has been checked out? When you shop at Furman Ford in Lawrence, you can count on all of that. I love doing business with locally owned businesses, businesses who are right here in our community. You can walk into Furman Ford in Lawrence. You can email them. You can call them. And you have access to a member of the Furman family. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line with every single transaction that takes place daily at Furman Ford. And they take that very seriously. They'll help you navigate through some of the great deals they have on a good selection of pre-owned vehicles, of new vehicles. And they're great at service, too. If you need service, call Furman Ford. You're not going to have to wait weeks or months to get your vehicle serviced. You do not have to have purchased it there. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Find them online at FurmanFord.com. FurmanFord.com. This is a very disturbing case out of Indiana. It's MC and JC versus Indiana Department of Child Services. Here's the story. Mary and Jeremy Cox. They're appealing to the Supreme Court after they were investigated by Indiana officials for refusing to refer their son using pronouns and a name inconsistent with his biological sex. Now, did you get that? They refused to refer to their son by pronouns that was inconsistent with his biological sex. Beckett is pursuing the case on behalf of the Coxes, arguing state courts allowed Indiana to keep the child from living in his parents' home due to their disagreement with the child's gender identity because of their religious beliefs. Upon completing the investigation, and this is an important part of this, the state determined that the allegations of abuse against Mary and Jeremy were unsubstantiated. But they still argued that the disagreement over the gender identity was distressing to the child. So they took him out. Lori Wyndham, Vice President and Senior Counsel at Beckett, in a statement said that no parent should ever have to endure what Mary and Jeremy have been forced to go through. She said, keeping a child away from loving parents because of their religious beliefs, even when the state admits there is no abuse or neglect, is wrong and it's against the law. The court should take this case and make clear that other states can't take children away because of ideological disagreements. Here's what happened. In 2019, Mary and Jeremy's son told them that he identified as a girl, but in line with their Catholic religious beliefs, that God created humans with an immutable sex, male or female. They did not believe in referring to him using pronouns and a name inconsistent with his biology. In addition, the Coxes believed their son was struggling with underlying mental health conditions, including an eating disorder, so they sought therapeutic care for their son. But in 2021, 2 years later, Indiana officials began investigating the Coxes after a report found that they were not referring to their child by his preferred gender identity. They removed the teen from their custody, placed him in a, quote, gender-affirming home. Now, can you believe this? This child was taken out of his parents' home because they were basically saying, son, you were born a little boy. God made you a little boy. We're going to call you by your little boy name, the name that we gave you. Now, again, the claims of abuse were unsubstantiated. The state agreed to that. They claimed the Coxes made the child's eating disorder worse, even though it worsened after he was removed and placed in a transition-affirming home. You think maybe a child removed from his family's home, from his mom and dad, yeah, that is going to increase your stress level, even if you disagree with your parents. The Indiana Department of Child Services, of course, declined any media requests for comments, saying that DCS does not comment on ongoing litigation. Mary and Jeremy Cox said in a press release, "This is what every parent is afraid of. We love our son and wanted to care for him, but the state of Indiana robbed us of that opportunity by taking him from our home and banning us from speaking to him about gender. We are hopeful that the justices will take our case and protect other parents from having to endure the nightmare that we did." Why should parents even have to fear this, though? Think about this. And I hope the Supreme Court will take this case up. And I hope that they will put the fear of God in any state, any local government of ever considering doing this again. When the case was first heard in court, Indiana officials argued that the child should be in a home where they were using the pronouns that he wanted, accepted for who she is. And they restricted the parents, the Coxes, from visitation to just a few hours once a week, which barred them from speaking to him about their religious views on human sexuality and gender identity. Even though the court determined the Coxes were fit parents, it upheld the removal of their child, which was later upheld by the appeals court. In a statement, Wyndham said, "If this can happen in Indiana, it can happen anywhere. Tearing a child away from loving parents because of their religious beliefs, which are shared by millions of Americans, is an outrage to the law, parental rights, and basic human decency. If the Supreme Court doesn't take this case, how many times will this happen to other families? Good question. Our prayer is that the court will take this case. That things are just gone nuts. I got one more to add to this before we move on. An elderly woman in California, she's 90 years old, has been fired from her volunteer position of 60 years at a nonprofit organization because she did not understand pronouns. Fran Itkoff. She had been volunteering for the MS Society, a nonprofit support group for multiple sclerosis patients, for 60 years when she was removed. Although her dedication to the MS Society had been recognized over the years, she had won multiple awards, the group forced her to step down after she asked what pronouns meant. She said, "I was confused. I didn't know what it was and what it meant," Itkoff said of her first reaction when she was asked to use pronouns in her email signature. The organization's decision to terminate her after years of service, of course, has garnered a lot of attention and criticism from various quarters, highlighting broader discussions around inclusivity, ageism, and communication barriers in volunteers and workplace environments, particularly concerning people in their senior years. 90 years old, had been volunteering for 60 years. She didn't understand what pronouns were. Good for her that she didn't, and was forced out because they wanted her to use pronouns in her email. First off, kudos that she even had an email address at the age of 90. But this is the crazy world we're living in. On the Furman Ford text line, Tony says, "Why do you make us suffer listening to the quitter speak?" Tony, he of course is talking about Nikki Haley. Tony, I kind of need to keep you informed there of what she says, right? Appreciate your text. Texter says, "Joey, there are over 8,000 homeless people in Michigan. Why don't these leftists care about them? Makes no sense for them to put illegal immigrants over homeless citizens." You're right. This is in response to a story I talked about in yesterday's episode about Michigan asking local people to house illegals, to put them up, feed them, clothe them, take care of them, welcome them to the community. Susan writes, New York is spending money over, handing money over to people who have no business even being in this country, and they're paying for it from a dwindling revenue base that will dwindle even further if that idiot judge forces the Trump family to cease doing business there for the next 3 years. I suspect that the revenue source will be lost to them forever, since I can't see the Trumps ever doing business there again. I see a lot of other businesses moving out or choosing not to move there in the first place. If they'll do it to the Trumps, who will they not do it to? You're right, Susan. Jennifer says, one of the best things Trump said last night was, "My revenge will be success." That was a good line, wasn't it? She said, Laura did a great job interviewing Trump, kept him focused and moving forward. Were you there, Joey? Wish Andy and I could have been. I was not there. Again, it was taped yesterday. It was taped about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and then, of course, aired during the normal time, 7 o'clock hour of the Ingraham show. No, I was not there. I'm busy. I'm slammed this week. I'm preparing for a very special broadcast next week. Hint, hint. There's going to be some special things happening next week. Ray says, "Hey Joey, what if the Florida Attorney General were to file suit against Ergeron and James for fraudulent valuation of Mar-a-Lago in the state of Florida? Maybe ask for $500 million. Time to turn the tables on these crazy leftists. Time to fight back." Thank you, Ray. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line as well. 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. I got a great text message from Kathy from Spartanburg, and I want to share it with you. She said, "Thank you, Joey. You're the best. It took me a while to recover from you not being on the radio every day. I'm so thankful for your podcast, which is always excellent." Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. I appreciate you listening to me all those years on the radio. Kathy says, tears swelled this morning when you read the concern for and response from the texter who sends words of encouragement for your podcast. To learn that he or she is still in the hospital after ICU and is learning how to walk and talk again, oh my goodness. You're right, Kathy. I'm getting a little emotional thinking about it again. She says, bless this wonderful texter. I'm praying for this encourager even when he or she is going through hard times. They are encouraging us. May God bless them and heal them 100%. And that's my prayer too, Kathy. And if you haven't heard, and if you're new to our podcast, Just the Truth, I have a texter who for years now has texted me a word of encouragement. Maybe it's a quote, maybe it's a scripture, but just encouraging. And I missed that. Just kind of, I noticed that I hadn't received them over several days. So even though I do not, well, actually, I think I know the identity of this person now. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But for years, it's just been no identity. Quite often when people text, they'll say, this is like Kathy from Spartanburg. And I like that. I like for you to tell me who you are. In this case, it was just always something encouraging, never identified who they are. And so I reached out. I can text them back and learn that he had been or has been in the hospital and still is. And so we're praying for recovery, full recovery, complete healing. And I got a message from him, and I do know now that it is a male. I want to text a little further and see if they are okay with me revealing their identity, but I did get a text. He said, I hated, this is our encouragement for today. I hated every minute of training, but I said, don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion. Joe, if you want to be the best, you have to do things that other people aren't willing to do. And that's the truth. The texter goes on to say, God bless you and your family and your audience. Signed, your faithful listener and loyal friend. Always remember, smile. God loves you, and so do I. Amen. P.S. Prayers do help. Thanks to all. So obviously, he has been able to listen to the podcast some in the hospital, and he knows that we have all been praying for him and for his recovery, and that we will continue. Kathy continued in her text. She said, thank you, Joey, for all you do every day. Please tell Peg hello from Kathy in Spartanburg. I saw y'all at the Spartanburg County GOP Christmas party at the Piedmont Club, but I did not want to bother you two so you could be a regular couple enjoying your evening. I knew you had a long drive home that night, and I did not want to impede your journey. I've enjoyed Lake Kiowee with a friend of mine who has a travel trailer there and a pontoon. It's a beautiful lake, so happy you two with your fur babies live there, and so are we. We love it there. Okay, she said, this book is getting long. Take care. God bless you. Your wife, Nana Hudson, and thank you so much. Kathy, thank you for that text. And I'm a little upset with Kathy that she did not come over and say hello at the Spartanburg GOP. So the next time we, Curtis Smith and his great team over at the Spartanburg County GOP, the next event they have that we're invited to and able to attend, Kathy, I expect to be able to talk to you. 864-477-5639, 864-477-JOEY. Love your comments, your voicemails, and your emails, joey@joeyhudson.com. Remington, the oldest gun manufacturer in the U.S., is preparing to close its factory in upstate New York after more than 2 centuries of operation. The decision, which will affect approximately 300 employees, comes as the company faces financial challenges. Remington CEO cited Georgia's support, the state of Georgia, for the firearms industry as a reason for the move, highlighting that the state's favorable business environment has prompted them to leave New York after 2 centuries. Residents of the New York area expressed sorrow over the closure, with the mayor describing it as akin to losing a family member. The move underscores broader trends, though, particularly in the firearms industry, with other manufacturers like Smith & Wesson, who located from northeastern states to the more gun-friendly regions I think they ended up in Tennessee, didn't they? Critics of New York's gun laws, including U.S. Representative Elise Stefanik and State Senator Mark Weisoff, blamed the state's regulatory environment for driving Remington away. Again, it really reflects a broader economic and regulatory landscape that's impacting the firearms industry throughout the nation. But kudos to Georgia for landing Remington. A 33-year-old amateur ballerina who has a dual U.S. Russian citizenship has been detained in Russia and is facing life in prison for allegedly donating $51 to a Ukraine war effort fund. Before I get into that story, let me tell you about Discounted Appliance Warehouse. If you need a new stove, a new dishwasher, refrigerator, maybe you're remodeling the kitchen and you just need all new appliances, Discounted Appliance Warehouse is the place you need to go. They have all the knowledge that you need to make the right decision. They have a A+ Better Business Bureau rating, nearly perfect reviews on Google. And the team at Discounted Appliance Warehouse, they have the knowledge to help you have the confidence in your decision that you make the right purchase. Appliances are not inexpensive, so you need to get it right. They'll show you around the warehouse. They have over 11,000 square feet. That's just packed full of appliances, and they'll help you find the right solution for you and your family. They have expert installation and award-winning service department, which I have experienced firsthand. Johnny and his team, they'll take care of you well after the sale. Discounted Appliance Warehouse. They're in Pickens and online at dawpickens.com. dawpickens.com. Here's a story out of Russia. The main domestic intelligence agency, the Federal Security Service, has reported that a 33-year-old amateur ballerina who has dual U.S. Russian citizenship was arrested on charges of treason. The FSB said the woman is a resident of Los Angeles, California, accused her of collecting money for the Ukrainian military. Here's what they said in their statement. Since February 2022, she has proactively collected funds in the interest of one of the Ukrainian organizations, which were subsequently used to purchase tactical medicine, equipment, weapons, and ammunition by the Ukrainian armed forces. In addition, in the United States, this citizen repeatedly took part in public actions in support of the Kyiv regime. The independent news outlet Mediazona identified the woman as Ksenia Karolina and said that she had received U.S. citizenship after marrying an American. The outlet reported that Miss Karolina allegedly transferred about $51 to Razom for Ukraine, which is a nonprofit Ukrainian group. $51. I'd say she's not a very good fundraiser if she only raised $51, but just think about that for a minute, that she's facing the rest of her life because of $51. White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that the White House and the State Department are aware of reports of the arrest, said that they're, quote, trying to get more information and to secure some consular access for that individual. Kirby refrained from any comment, saying that there was privacy issues. He said, our very strong warnings about the danger posed to U.S. citizens inside Russia. If you're a U.S. citizen, including a dual national residing in or traveling in Russia, you ought to leave right now, he said. U.S. State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller noted that when it comes to dual citizens of the U.S. and Russia, that Moscow does not recognize dual citizenship. It considers them to be Russian citizens first and foremost. Razom for Ukraine CEO Dora Shomiak said that the organization was appalled by the reports of Ms. Karolina's arrest. The news of the arrest comes as Russian court ruled to keep Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich in custody pending his trial on espionage charges that he denies, of course. The Moscow City Court rejected an appeal about his detention filed by his lawyers, upholding an earlier ruling to keep him behind bars until the end of March. That means that Gershkovich, he's 32 years old, will spend at least a year behind bars in Russia after his arrest in March of 2023 while on a reporting trip to the Russian city of Yekaterinburg in the Ural Mountains. Gershkovich and the Wall Street Journal have denied the allegations, of course, and the U.S. government has declared him to be wrongfully detained. Russian authorities haven't detailed any evidence to support their charges. Of course, they don't have to when they hold you. In December, the U.S. State Department said that Russia had rejected several proposals for freeing Mr. Gershkovich, and that Paul Whelan, the corporate security executive from Michigan, who's been jailed in Russia since December of 2018, again, he too was arrested on espionage-related charges that both he and the U.S. government dispute. Whelan was sentenced to 16 years in prison for his offenses. Some analysts have noted that Moscow may be using jailed Americans as bargaining chips after, of course, U.S.-Russian tensions soared when Russia sent troops into Ukraine. At least 2 U.S. citizens arrested in recent years, including WNBA star Brittany Griner, have been exchanged for Russians jailed in the U.S. So what is your response to that? What is our obligation as a country? If you're in Russia and you know that it's dangerous to be there and you're detained, what obligation does the U.S. government have to secure your release like they did Miss Griner? 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639, the Furman Ford text line. Love for you to chime in. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Appreciate you joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Please join our mailing list. Visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Just search for Joey Hudson while you're on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification button so that when we post new things, and like I said, I got some special things happening next week you're going to want to be part of. So, and some of that will be on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel yet, find me on YouTube so that you'll be ready for next week. Keep your comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Keep those emails coming to joey@joeyhudson.com. We're back again tomorrow. Hope you'll join us then. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.